All right, welcome to estimation. It is 2.7 in your book. We'll be talking about estimation and working through some examples for this. Again, just like we did with 2.6, we will talk about this on the next class day and be able to review what we learned through this video. So let's get started. I'm going to share this. Learning outcome. So this is the stuff we're doing to learn estimation. Rounding and estimation are the same thing. Our book only says estimating. We use rounding in approximating calculations to know the approximate value of whole numbers by rounding. Round numbers to different degrees of accuracy. Estimate under answers to calculations. So this is all about just basically having educated guesses by rounding up and estimating the answer. Why do we use rounding? Some whole numbers are given too accurately. It's more sensible to round them off. We just don't need to know all that accuracy with it. Number of people living in a village is 3,476. Well, if we wanted to round this to the nearest 10, we look at the tens digit. So we've got to remember back to place value. Remember that we have the 6 is in the ones digit. The 7 is in the tens digit. The 4 is in the hundreds digit. And then, of course, the 3 is in the thousands digit. If you struggle with place value, please let me know so that I can help you with that. In this case, we're asked to do the tens place, right? So right down here, it says the 10, nearest 10. So we look at the number, the 7's in the tens digit. We look at the next number, the 6, 5 or greater, we go up. 5 or below 5, we stay. So 6 is bigger than 5, so we're going to move 7 up, and we get 3,480. Now, the next thing says to round to the nearest 100. So you look at the hundreds digit, which is a 4, and you look to the right of that, the 7. Does that tell us to stay or go up? It tells us to go up, so we end up with 3,500. And then for the last one, it asks us to do 1,000 to the nearest thousand. So we look at the thousands digit. Look at the number to the right of that, which happens to be the 4. So that tells us to stay or go up. It tells us to stay in this case, so our answer is 3,000. And now we're going to move on to the next thing. Hopefully you can pause and take notes on that if you need to, but I'm going to move on. Oh, I need to delete my drawings here so we can see. All right, so now we've got some practice. So what I want you to do is, I know it's a lot of practices, so just on the first one here, round these numbers to the nearest 10, pause the video and run through A through H. Okay, welcome back. You should have paused and tried all 8 of those questions. The correct answers, A is 50, B is 70, C is 70, D is 90, E is 190, F is 350, G is 900, H is 230. Again, if you have any questions in your notes right now, put like 1G, why is that 900? Or whatever your question is, so that you can ask that when we come together tomorrow. Number 2 here, round these numbers to the nearest 100. So now you're going to do number 2, these 8 problems. So pause the video and give those a shot. Welcome back. Letter A should be 100. Letter B should be 400. Letter C should be 600. Letter D is 200. Letter E is 100. Letter F is 300. Letter G is 400, and letter H is also 400. Again, if you have a question on any of those, write it down so I can answer it in class. We will take time for questions. Number 3, round to the nearest 1,000. Again, pause, do these 8s, and then hit play again so you can get the answers. All right, welcome back. Letter A, it is 2,000. Letter B is 1,000. Letter C is 2,000. Letter D is 10,000. Letter E is 37,000. Letter F is 59,000. Letter G is 1,000. Letter H is 8,000. If you had any questions on any of those, again, put like 3D, why is it 10,000, or some sort of thing. Make sure in your note you don't just write 3D, because by the time you get to class, you might not understand what your question was on that. So write down some sort of note to yourself. It does not have to be a complete sentence. This is not English class, it is math class, but you should put some sort of note so that you can ask in class. So I'm going to now share some examples if you were confused. Skill check 1, round each of these number to the indicated place. So what I'm going to do is kind of talk through each one of these, because if you're at this point, you're still with me, then you're probably confused on what the heck we're doing. So number 1 here says round to the indicated place. The indicated place is 10. So we look at the tens place. So the 8 is in the ones place, the 7's in the tens place. We look at this number, we underline that tens place, 7. Now look to the right of what you just underlined. Is the 8 above 5, 5 or more? Or is it less than 5? This is more than 5, so that means that the 7 is going to change to the next number and become 80. So that's what number 1 is 80. Number 2 says to round to the nearest hundredth. Now, this is something that we didn't just talk about. I'm going to remind people in class when we're meeting to remember about the right of the decimal. So we've got this decimal point. And if we start going, we do not do once. We actually skip to tenths. So the 0 is in the tenths place. And then the 6 is in the hundredths place. The 2 is in the thousandths place. And then the 5 is in the 10,000th place. So for this question, we are looking for the hundredth place, which is our 6, right? And then we look to the right of it. Is 2 5 or more, or less than 5? It's less than 5, so we stay. So this answer ends up being 628.06. Sorry for the bad look of it with my writing. It's difficult on the computer here. All right, then we move on to the next one, which is 1,000, right? And I cannot find my cursor. There it is. All right, so 1,000. So we go ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. The 4 is in the thousands place. Look to the right, it's a 7, so that means it's going to go up. So we'll have 25,000. Remember, every 3 digits, we put a comma, so it's easier to read. When we have the decimal, those never get anything between them, like here on number 4. We just have 0 and all of these numbers, right? So we're looking at the 100,000th place. So the 3 is in the tenths, the 0 is in the hundredths, the 5 is in the thousandths, and now we just start saying 10 and 100 with the last thing we said. So the 2 is in the 10,000ths, the 1 is in the 100,000th, and now we've got to say something besides thousandths. So the 9 is in the millionths place. So our 100,000ths place, hard to say, is 1. So we look to the right of that. The 9 tells us to go up or stay where we're at. It tells us to go up. So the answer here for this one is 0 and 30522. So that is 30,522 millionths. No, 100,000ths. I'm sorry, it's not millions. It'd be 100,000ths. All right. If you totally understand it now, you feel good, stop the video. See you tomorrow. Estimating the product of quotient by rounding. Remember, product is the answer to multiplication. Quotient is the answer to division. The way we estimate this is we've got to estimate each number and then get the answer. So we've got 31 rounds to 30. 78 will round to 80. And what you're doing is you just look at the two numbers and you find the smaller of the two numbers, or the smaller number of digits in the two numbers. So this one has 2 digits. They both have 2 digits, so you both round them to the 10. So we've got 30 times 80, which is just 3 times 8, and you add 2 zeros to the answer. That's how you do that. So 3 times 8, if you remember your multiplication facts, is 24, and then we throw the zeros on there, so our actual answer, rounded answer, is 2400. All right, on to, I'm going to skip down to number 3 because it's another multiplication, and I'll do 2 and 4. Number 3, we look at the two numbers. We've got one that goes to the hundreds and one that goes to the tens. We want the smaller one that goes to the tens. So we're going to round both of them to the 10. Depending on what your book tells you to do, since this is just telling you general estimate, it's easier to just round them both to the biggest. So it makes it simpler to round. So I'm going to round this to the hundreds and this one to the tens, contradicting what I was saying. In general, you're going to want to do them at the same, but that's going to be a pain in the butt to do in your head. So 654 rounded is going to be 700. And then 83 rounded is going to be 80. So we got 3 zeros there, so we know we're going to have 3 zeros on the end, and we got 7 times 8, which is 56. Trying to get that dot, sorry about that. So 56, and then the 3 zeros. And remember, we go 1, 2, 3, and we put a comma. In America, if you're in England or Europe, it is a flip of that. They use commas where we use decimal points. They use decimal points where we use commas. Very confusing. So if you do anything international, that's why it's that way. All right, then division. So with division, I would go ahead and do these to the 10. So 1 and the 6 are in the tens place. So this is 210 divided by 70. So what I can do with this, so with multiplication we just added up the zeros. With this you have to have the same number of zeros to get rid of them. So they both have 1 0. So I do 21 divided by 7, which is 3. And then it's the 1 0. So my answer is 30. No, it's 3. It's just 3 actually, because when you have the zeros, they eliminate when you divide. So silly Mr. Bocamp. All right, and then on to the next one. What I would do is I look at this small one and I see that it rounds to 60, right? And if I look at this number, it rounds to either 1,740, 1,700, or 2,000. None of those numbers can be divided by 60, but this number looks close to 1,800. So when it comes to rounding, I want something that's going to match with the 6. So if I do 1,880, so I eliminate 1 0 from each, divided by 6, I'm going to get 30. And that is the estimated answer. So you can see with dividing, it's a little bit different. You got to think about things you do know to be able to get the right answer with that. So otherwise, you're going to have some awkward answer with a decimal, and that's defeating the purpose of rounding altogether. So if you have any more questions, bring them to class as we're going through practice problems. Don't just run a bunch of questions at the beginning. Let's look for practice problems that we're going to do. So look in RenWeb. If you can find one of the practice problems that relates to your question from these examples, then circle it so when we get to it, you can ask about it. Make sure you give yourself a note of what you want to ask. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Have a great night.